Thanks, Matthew. And well, hello, everybody. I don't know, some of you maybe good morning, good evening. There's one benefit of COVID is that we kind of bring together people, or are able to bring together people who are in different parts of the world at the same time. But of course, we all hope that in the fall, things will be back to normal. So my name is Ulrich Kremer. I'm the grad director, and what I'm trying to do with my 20 minutes is kind of give you a rough overview about the PhD program. I try to go through a few slides, and then hopefully we have some time to answer questions. So if you are coming to Rutgers, you probably will have to deal with me, and you also will talk quite a bit with Michelle. Probably already have done that via email and others. So basically, the two of us, kind of like Matthew said, we deal with administrative things. If you need a form, you talk to Michelle. I then have the pleasure to sign this, and so on and so forth. But we are also there for any issues you have in the program, and I will talk a little bit about this later. So we are there to help you. We want to make sure that you have a good experience here at Rutgers and that things go as smoothly as possible. So let me first give you kind of some overview. And again, at the end, hopefully we have some time if you have questions that we can address those. Basic information. So yeah, Matthew already said 150 PhD students around there. Average time to completion is around 5.5 years. Of course, it depends on your topic, what you're doing. If you come here and have this brilliant insight, write it up and get out as fast as you can. I'm all for that. If you are more experimental or things are slower than you hoped for, well, then you take a little longer. So we have a variety of times to get you out of here with a PhD. We require 72 credits, which doesn't really mean much. I will mean much in terms of right now. I will tell you a little bit more about the credit structure. But of course, we have courses, and then we have specific requirements or milestones in our program. How will you survive? Well, you will getting funds, and typically you are supported as students on TA-ships and GA-ships or fellowships. And this will happen, the package you received in your offer letter typically is 5 years. And as long as you make sufficient progress towards your degree, whatever that means, you're fine. So for instance, if you decide for half a year to take off and not talk to your advisor and do some surfing in Hawaii, that may not be sufficient progress towards your degree. Right? So everything within reason, but you can expect under regular circumstances to be funded at least for 5 years. And typically we are also able to manage 6 or even longer terms of funding. Okay, just look at your offer letter and you will see what particular offers you got. And we cover things like tuition, health insurance, and a stipend for you. So what are more detailed requirements? I encourage you to look at our website. Maybe a little bit overwhelming initially, but we try to look at the summary part of the requirements. So I just briefly want to go through this. So we have something called the breadth requirement and the depth requirement. Most PhD programs have something very similar. So breadth means we want to make sure that you have a sound foundation across different areas. And depth requirement is more specific topic that you're interested in, maybe robotics, AI, machine learning. And then the depth requirement also has what you call a qualifying exam, where you conduct research, you write up a paper, and you talk about it. So we want to see that you can talk in a coherent and scientific manner about a particular topic and show background knowledge in that area. Then we have additional courses you have to do. This may be courses or independent studies. Independent studies are one-on-one courses with a faculty member. So that's typically used to kind of get a feel for the faculty member, whether things work out or not, whether things gel, because it's a very, very important relation between you and your advisor. And I'll talk about this in a minute. Of course, part of a PhD is a dissertation, and that includes the proposal as well as the document. And you have to have a committee. and you have to do the research. So that basically is our program. And the research typically is 24 credits. So 1/3, if you wish, 1/3 of your career in terms of credit you spend just on research. And typically you take these credits once you're done with everything in terms of proposal, depth requirement, breadth requirement. This slide is just to give you an idea of how these things relate. This is just a rough idea that tells you, yeah, you may want to initially start with getting your breadth requirement out of the way, foundational things. We encourage you to get as quickly as possible involved in research as well. So you can also at the same time work on the depth requirement. You should reach out to faculty members to get advisors, research advisors, and so on. So this is just a slide or a graph that tells you approximately how to do things. But in theory, you could actually finish the depth requirement before you finish the depth requirement. But all this should be on your horizon. And the important person to ask about this will actually be your advisor, right? And your advisor, your academic advisor, just look at your offer letter. He or she will guide you through your initial year and beyond to essentially tell you what to do. So for instance, when I'm the academic advisor of a student, I typically try to mix it up a little bit. So take a course, start working on your breadth requirement, and perhaps take another course that may go into a particular research interest. But in general, here at Rutgers, also for the depth requirement, we have these two classes of courses. We call them the A and the B courses. So A is more the flavor of theoretical courses, right? So, and algorithms, and B is more system-oriented ones. And the breadth requirement doesn't really matter. You basically take 2 courses in A and 2 courses in B, and you have to have a particular average in them. So it's typically not a big deal, but you want to get it out of the way if you choose to kind of make progress. And I typically recommend that. You want to make progress at breadth and depth at the same time. The fun part about courses for me as the graduate director is that you have new faculty coming in, there are new course proposals. And this is by no means a list that is, well, it's a complete list at this point. But for instance, right now we have 3 new courses in the works, exciting courses that we get hopefully approved by the grad school. And in the fall and in the spring next year, we hope to be able to offer those. But let me go back to your advisor, because the advisor is actually a very, very important person for you, right? So what advisors do we typically have here? So there are actually 2 advisors, so to speak, at least from the function. So there's the academic advisor, who you have been assigned to already. You can see on your offer letter who that is. And typically this person will help you navigate through the academic part of things, right? Typically this person works in your field of interest, and typically this person is also the one who very much wanted you to be here. So this is typically also, hopefully later, your research advisor. So later in your career, typically a research advisor takes over. That's the person you will do research with, you will publish papers with, right? And who hopefully will be able to fund you on a GA-ship. And in general, this will be your main research professor that you will be interacting with while being here at Rutgers. So let me briefly tell you a little bit about the 2 ways of funding, the GA-ship notion and the GA-ships. We also have fellowships, but that's typically a little bit different. But let me focus here on GA-ships and fellowships and GA-ships. So typically, if you come here as a new student, you will be TA, so a teaching assistant. These are grad students like you would be, who will stand in front of students, undergrad students typically, and get assigned a particular course to TA. And what that means is you typically teach recitation sessions. These are small groups of undergrads. Depends on the course how big this will be. You will have to grade homeworks, projects, help the professor design homeworks, come up with projects potentially, right? And you have to hold office hours and answer questions with students. Typically, the weekly load for TAs is around 15 hours a week. right? And if you are a foreign student, you will need to be full-time while being here at Rutgers. And this counts for 6 credits towards your full-time status. And your full-time status means 9 credits. So you could be fine in the first 2 semesters to be a TA and then take 1 or perhaps 2 courses. So we are trying to keep the load somewhat low in the beginning, and normally I recommend start it easy, get used to our environment here, and then once you feel comfortable, you may actually take more courses if you wish. So that's the TA. The GA is the graduate assistant. Typically, that means you work directly with a professor. It's kind of like a contract between you and the professor. How research typically works here is that faculty attract grants. That can be federal grants, National Science Foundation, DARPA, other institutions, and also industry. And these projects have different length, and we as the principal investigators on these projects need graduate students to help us do the work. And that's what the GA-ship is about. In terms of load, it's very similar, but typically it has to do with the research that you would be doing anyways, right? And you work closely with a professor, and typically this hopefully will lead to a successful PhD thesis and PhD defense. Typically, GA-ships can or are given after you kind of understand the landscape of professors here at Rutgers, so to speak, and you manage to connect with a professor, you have shared interests, and typically the later part of your career, 3rd year, 4th year, 5th year, will be on a GA-ship where you can concentrate on your research. We have cases also where you are offered even GA-ship from the 1st year. That is possible. And again, that has to do with the professor. So if you have already connections with the professor, it is possible to get a GA-ship from the beginning. So again, for just because I mentioned TA-ships as well, for your visa status issues or full-time status, it counts for 6 credits. So questions that I encountered with respect to GA-ships and advisors and so on, and just try to be proactive. Can you change your academic and research advisor? Absolutely. It's not a marriage. You don't come here and that's it. No, you can shop around, so to speak, but of course, so can professors. So you are a very, very important asset to us. You will carry research that is vital for our operation. Right? So there will be a negotiation between you and the professor. We want you to be successful. You may come here and find suddenly another topic extremely exciting and you want to do this. By all means, do that. So you have to show initiative. You have to go out there, find the professor you want to work with. And then hopefully this also will lead to a GA-ship where you then get funded and then can concentrate on the particular research you want to do. If you have any problems during your kind of career, this may be problems involving interaction with your advisor or any other thing, you can always reach out to me and Michelle. We are always there to talk to you. And I mentioned the notion of marriage, and to some extent, there may be bumpy roads in the marriage. That's totally normal, right? People are involved in things. Typically, it's not an issue, but I just want to say, if you have any issues, we are always there to help you. And we always manage to resolve issues in the best way possible. So don't hesitate to reach out, okay? So, of course, you are joining Rutgers, not necessarily only for the coursework and for being whatever, TA or GA. You want to do research. And Matthew already mentioned very exciting areas that we have here. And today, later, you will see poster presentations, or poster, unfortunately, that's not possible, but you will see presentation, pitch talks, and we have breakout sessions and where you can talk to people. So there are many, many areas where you can explore your interests. And what I want to say or emphasize to you is that you should think of professors as a resource. Don't be hesitant to reach out to them. They are here at Rutgers because of you. They want to talk to students. They want to interact with graduate students, right? they could have gone to industry and do something else. No, they are in academia because they want to work with you, because they enjoy this dynamic environment. So I think the last slide here before I open, hopefully I have enough time for questions. The last thing that's very important for me to mention is that keep in mind that we have an environment here, right? It's really, a PhD is a road. You have to enjoy the ride, right? You will be exposed to many interesting ideas. And I want to stress that one part of this experience is being or having interactions with your fellow students. So you will join, hopefully in person soon, this common experience of being a PhD student at Rutgers, right? And that's a very important one. And the person next to you who will also graduate, maybe in 10 years from now, the colleague at a different research institution, a different professor, or maybe somebody who gives you money to fund you, or maybe somebody you can reach out to for your professional goals. So keep that in mind. It's the whole package. So having said that, yeah, hopefully you're excited about what you will be seeing today. And if you have any questions, do not hesitate to contact Michelle or me. And perhaps right now I can briefly ask Michelle, did I forget anything important before I open the floor? Anything that I missed?
No, for the department itself, no. The only thing that I would just say also is for any international students, become very good friends with the global services. They are fantastic and they will help you every step of the way. And of course, if you have any questions about that as well, I work very closely with them. So that's it. Welcome, everybody.
Thanks, Michelle.